Welcome friends to another r/malicious compliance video. The only compliance I could ever ask from you guys is for you guys to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. Our first story of the day is by Jasper4505. My former employers lost their client and business because of me. A few years back in 2018, I had decided to switch employers. I worked from home as a chat support specialist and eventually a supervisor for a major tech company. I decided to switch to a small-time customer support agency that was just starting a new chat team. They had better pay and benefits because they only had a small number of employees compared to the former. The description of the position I was to be hired for was another salary-based supervisory role for their brand new chat team for the client. I'd basically be doing the same things as my previous job, but also spearheading this small department while simultaneously training other coworkers with zero experience in chat support. This was going extremely well, and our client was ecstatic at the results of the new chat program. They had personally sent me an email over my progress. The company I left was, and still is, known worldwide to have the friendliest and most professional customer support out of any other company, so it was easy to apply what I learned to this new position. After about 2 months of doing this, the person I directly reported to, the regional supervisor, was retiring. Our new regional came in and was friendly at first, but decided that he didn't want to waste his time on chat and directed me to phone support, which was not in my job description, nor what I was hired for by any means. He cited that the client was unhappy with the results, which was in stark contrast to what they told me directly. Even after forwarding him the email, he was still not doing anything about it, so I complied. It took just 2 days for the client to have reached out to me personally. After explaining to them the situation, they were livid. My new regional had lied to me about his contact with the client and had essentially ignored our client's attempt to contact him about this issue. I had continued to work in the supervisory role for phones until the first quality review of my employees came up. For team leads and direct call center employees both, this is where I review their interactions and grade them based off their strengths and weaknesses. Our regional wanted me to even include the chat support team who were neither hired or trained for the phones. He refused to give them training. On every single employee who was hired for chat support, I had filed all of them as unable to be completed, and in my notations, I included that this is not the position they were hired or trained for, and thus an analysis could not be accurately completed. And I sent this both to the regional manager and our client as well, since at this point I had a direct contact email. I was responded to the same day by whoever it is within our client who oversees all of outsourcing. The only words I got back were, "We will deal with this." The client held a meeting the following week with my employers. I'm not sure what was said in that meeting, but word got back to everyone that the client had dropped us for breach of contract. Because this was a small office and our company's only client for several years, this was bad. After that, me and my team were offered a position with the company directly doing the things we were hired to do, but required us to move about 4 hours north, so unfortunately, none of us decided to accept that offer. I collected unemployment until I found a new job. Now the company's out of business and is currently being sued by some other employees for unpaid wages. This new case has been going on since 2019. If you had training for a specific kind of job, you land a job somewhere doing that, and then you notice you're slowly getting pushed towards responsibilities and tasks that aren't in what you're trained for, would that be reason enough for you to look for a new job? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by Ebeth the Mighty, Compliant Home/School Communication. I went to elementary school in the 70s. The school I attended was all French-speaking, intended for kids whose family spoke French at home. My family, mom, me, and my one sibling, spoke English at home. I was moved from an immersion program to this one for reasons. The school sent home notes to alert parents of things, as one did in the years before email and text alerts. These were in French, obviously, which my mother didn't read or speak. Getting 7-year-old me to translate was problematic. The level of vocabulary in the notes was above my expertise. Mom wrote some notes to my classroom teacher asking for translations of informational stuff that was sent home. She also contacted the principal. At both levels, she was assured that an English translation would be made available. She wasn't looking for a formal paid translator to labor over a precise equivalency or anything. Both the teacher and principal spoke English. A 2-line summary on a post-it would have been fine. After her 7th, 8th request for accommodation, the principal said something like, "Well, French is our first language. We write in our first language." Mom took that as a challenge. She wrote her response in Gaelic. She told me what it said and sent it to school with me the next day in a sealed envelope. I left it on the teacher's desk. I got called down to the principal's office near the end of the day. He said in French, "Do you know what this says?" "Sure," I answered. "It's a note from my mom. She says that if you want to write in your first language, fair's fair, and also that you and she have a language in common, English, and it'd probably be more convenient to use that instead of having me translate everything." We got short notes with all the sent home letters for a while after that. Note, Mom didn't actually know any Gaelic much. Most of the note was done with the help of a Gaelic English dictionary and grammar. She was just being a bit of a pain. It's sad that it had to go to that point, but if it's capable and easy like writing a note in English is real quick, and it relates to a child's education, I think it's vital that there's some solution worked out there. I appreciate teachers, but it seems like a lot of laziness on that teacher's part. This next story is by Biogon. Flatten all the boxes? You got it. Have a great time picking them up one by one. Our local recycling company requires all cardboard boxes to be flattened and broken down for pickup. For the past couple of years, I've saved one larger box to put all the flattened ones into. It's easier for me since I can do all the work in a lit garage at night and carry it out to the curb. And it's easier for the pickup guy since he, and it's always a he, can pick up a single box and fling it into the truck. A couple of weeks ago, something changed. I guess maybe they got a new recycling guy since the pickup happened much earlier in the day than before. Anyhow, I came home to find my neatly packed box hadn't been picked up and a note left instead that I had to flatten all the boxes. Yep, you got it. Last week, I got to watch in glee as the guy bent over and picked up each flattened box one by one. As awful as it makes people look, the more convoluted you make the system of recycling, it becomes much more common for people to go, "I'm just not going to deal with it, it's all just gonna go in the trash can." But funny enough, in this situation, OP was all about just making it easier for the recycling guys. Guess they didn't know how good they had it. This next story is by Adorable Lori. You need a train ticket to be eligible for reduced parking fees. Where I live in Switzerland, parking fees can get really expensive near any big city center, but thankfully the train stations almost all have dedicated parking spaces that stay affordable regardless if you're in your small hometown or right in the middle of a commercial zone. However, depending on the train station location, you can either use an app and pay for your parking spot right as you leave your car. You only need to enter your license plate number, or you have to grab a ticket at the entrance and go inside the train station itself to ask for a reduced parking fee. It's either one or the other system, it can't be both. The latter requires you to have a train ticket on hand, or they won't give you the reduction on the parking fee. I didn't know this the first time I went in. This is where the malicious compliance part comes in. You see, the reduced parking fee ticket is really just your original ticket with extra holes punched into it, so the machine gives you the new price instead of the normal one. So as long as these holes are present on the ticket, you're set. The train station company has another app where you can effortlessly buy train tickets for any date, any hour, and all it takes is 3 clicks. It also has a neat feature where if the date you bought the ticket for hasn't passed yet, you can instantly refund it at no cost. So, pretty much every time I need cheap parking and they require me to get the physical parking ticket, I just buy a random train ticket departing the next hour and show it to the clerk so they can give me the reduced parking fee. As soon as I leave, I get a refund for the dummy ticket through the app and go on my merry way. That, my friends, is called a loophole. And the greatest thing about finding a loophole is that time period where only you and maybe a few other people know about it, so you go that length of time enjoying the profits from it, until eventually it's noticed, it's figured out, and it gets shut down. But until then, enjoy the reduced parking. Our next story is by Caro Snoopy 37. Need me to send in proof of my name change? Fine, enjoy your jammed fax machine. So I was granted a legal name change a few months ago. Long, boring story as to why. Simply put, hated the unique spelling of my first name and wanted to ditch my surname. Didn't have much trouble updating my name most places. Social security, driver's license, insurance, yada yada. No bumps in the road until I got to the very last thing to update. my credit card. I use this particular credit card a lot. I'm self-employed and use this card to rack up travel points for flights, hotels, rental cars, etc. However, if you've ever checked into a hotel or picked up a rental car, you'll know the name on the card must match the name on the ID. So I call the credit card company, told I have to fill out a certain document and mail that in alongside a copy of the court document. Fair enough. 2 weeks go by, hear nothing, so I call again. They say they haven't received it. I'm then informed they have a fax number that I can use to send in the documentation. So I fax in everything necessary using an app on my phone. Another 2 weeks go by, still nothing, I call again. Same spiel on the other end of the phone. Please mail or fax, you get the deal. I once more did what they asked, yet another week passes. I call again, told the same darn script. I'm starting to get annoyed by this point. I have an upcoming trip planned and need the card to match my ID, so I ask to speak to a manager. They give me some BS of a manager not being currently available. Anyways, I fax in the document and court order once again. However, this time I decided I was just going to keep hitting send after the previous one had shown as delivered. I thought I'd repeat the process a few times just to make sure they got it. After sending it 25 times the first day, I got no response. Next day I was sitting on my couch watching football. Thought I'd send the fax over a few more times. By the time I realized how many times I'd hit send, I had sent it over 130 times. The very next afternoon, I got a call from a manager at the credit card company. She sounded quite angry over the phone. I just played dumb. You guys asked me to fax it in. I got my updated card in the mail 3 days later. Now, in almost any situation, I would understand if people were complaining about the credit card company having some really complex or convoluted system to prevent you from being defrauded in any way, but just consistently saying, nope, never got the fax, and leaving you out to dry for weeks on end over a month or two. That leaves me with some choice words, and I'd want to send over 130 faxes to them too. You'll be able to inform me that you got it one way or another. And our final story of the day is by LGPXters. You'll lose most of your money if you cancel your holiday with us. I recently had booked a holiday to Mexico, which at the time of booking, early 2020, it came to around 2,200 British pounds for 2 people for 2 weeks. We felt pretty fortunate to have been able to get that at that sort of price. Anyway, COVID happened, and as you can imagine, the holiday we booked with TUI, British holiday/travel agent, was postponed. Feeling a little anxious to go abroad even when restrictions were lifted, my partner and I decided we wanted to cancel and rebook at another time. Truth be told, we could have also benefited quite a lot with having some of that money back. I called them to cancel after a rather lengthy hold to get through to them, to be told, sorry, if you want to cancel, you'll lose 2,100 of the 2,200 that you paid. However, you can make a free of charge amendment and you or we will pay the difference. So if your new holiday is cheaper, we'll refund the difference. Okay, let me speak with my partner and we'll see what we want to do. Malicious compliance begins. I have no interest in postponing my holiday, so I browse their other destinations on the website. I phone back the next day. I say, hi, I'd like to make an amendment to my booking, please. TUI says, sure, no problem. Do you have a destination in mind? I say, yes, I found this rather appealing location in the Canary Islands, which also happens to be your cheapest holiday. Oh, and I want to amend it from 2 weeks to your minimum stay. TUI says, okay, so you'll get a refund of $1,750, and your holiday has now been amended. After receiving my refund a few days later, I call them and tell them I wish to cancel my new crappy cheap holiday. At this point, I've lost about half of what the crappy cheap holiday would have cost. Instead of losing 2,100 pence, I only ended up losing about 280. Granted, it's still not ideal to have lost out on 280 pence, but it sure is better than losing most of what I paid. I definitely agree that in that situation, considering the pandemic, it sucks to have to be faced with canceling something that you're going to lose money on regardless. But I think we can all say it's pretty savvy to move things around and shift around to salvage it as best as you could and get as much of your money back as possible. It's a pretty darn smart move. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.